Hello friends, and welcome into my craft room. I'm Heidi with Heidi's Hobble DIY, and in today's episode we are going to be making 20 new crafts using Dollar Tree supplies to keep us on a crafter's budget. We're going to be talking about easy steps to follow, new techniques and tutorials that you're all going to enjoy. Now come along and let's make something beautiful for our homes. I had this idea to turn this piece of wood into a bunny. We're going to be using this wood plaque, this little candle stem holder that I always get from Hobby Lobby, a craft stick, and some burlap. We're going to add a couple more things, but this is what we're going to start with. I took my drill and I drilled a hole so that I can stick this craft stick up into this wood piece. But first we're going to trim it down about, I don't know, a half an inch from the top of that craft stick and glue it into the candle stem holder. Put that to the side to let it dry. Then I took my wood block and I traced it on some burlap, and I'm going to cut it out. And this is so that we can give some texture to this wood block. I really love the look of painted burlap. I think it brings in the most beautiful texture, and I don't know, I just really like it, especially for the springtime. So I'm going to just glue that down after I got it cut out. I'm using a popsicle stick because hot glue does kind of squish through the burlap and it can burn you. And then anything that's hanging over that I don't like, I'm just going to trim it. Now I'm going to take another piece of burlap. I'm going to use my hot glue to make the shape of a bunny ear. Take my craft stick, just smush that all in between. And then I'm going to set that over to the side and do it again for the other bunny ear. And we're going to be cutting along the line of the hot glue. If that is a little tricky to see where you put the hot glue, go ahead and do some pencil lines that you feel comfortable doing the glue on and tracing around with. I have a really well lit craft room, so it's allowing me to be able to see where I put the glue. Now you're going to see when you work with glue and burlap on your table, it's going to get onto your tabletop. I'm going to just use my plastic scraper and scrape up all the glue. I've said it a million times and you're going to hear it in this video a lot. I love the scraper tool because it gets up so much stuff. Now I'm going to cut out those bunny ears. I'm just, like I said, following along that glue line, and I'm going to just trim it up the way I want it to look. Once I've got those done, I'm going to go ahead and now bring the wood block onto the stand. This is going to allow it to be up and elevated, and it is going to look so darling in just a few more minutes. Just hang in there. Once it's all glued together and it looks good, nice and straight, we're going to add on our white paint. See how the texture comes forward with the burlap and the paint? I love how this looks so much. It has such a beautiful farmhouse look to it. I'm going to just paint the entire thing except for the very bottom base. I loved the color of the wood and I didn't want to paint that part. You can paint it if you want, it's up to you. I could also see somebody doing this project and making the bunny pink. That could be really sweet as well. I'm also going to be painting the ears with white, and then I have a half wood round bead. I'm going to be using a very light pink. I actually didn't have the color I wanted on hand, so I used a pink that I did have, added some white to it to get an even lighter, perfect pink color for a bunny. I painted the little bump, which is going to be the nose, and then I painted pink inside of the ears, making that bunny shape where you would see their pink skin. I just took my time going around the edges, making sure I got the paint in there so it looks nice and pretty. Once it was all painted, I let everything dry, and you can use a heat gun for this too. I then am going to come in with some twine, and I'm going to add some whiskers. I'm doing 3 different pieces of twine, and I kind of like that they look a little wonky, so I'm just kind of playing with them so I can get them to lay the way I want them to. And then I'm going to add on a small white button, and then add on that half wood round. It makes the most darling little nose for a bunny with the whiskers coming out, the twine. This is coming together so cute. Now I'm going to put on the ears. You don't have to staple them, but I really wanted to make sure they're not going to come off. So I put some hot glue, I put on the bunny ear, and I bent the end of the ear just a little bit while the paint was still wet and not dried yet, and it allowed it to be able to have a little landing spot for me to glue it onto the top of my sign, and that way the bunny ear would stand up nicely. Once that was stapled and glued on, I'm now going to add on some greenery and these darling dainty little roses that I get from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to glue on 3. And then to finish the look, we got to go back down to the bottom of it. I'm going to add on some Spanish moss to conceal that hot glue. I don't want to see that part. That part's not very nice. So we're going to just tuck some moss down in there. Trim it up if you don't want it to be too crazy. You could also use a green moss if you want that as well. And to finish the look, I'm going to tie a beautiful pink gingham bow around the stem of the sign. And now we have completed our bunny. Isn't it so precious? This project is so ridiculously easy. I saw these tiny little wood cutout bunnies and I knew we should turn it into a banner. A simple, easy peasy banner. Take some twine to the length that you want, and I would recommend maybe grabbing 2 packs of bunnies or 3, depending on how long you want it to be. You're going to take your bunny, you're going to put your hot glue down, and I put the twine right where you would tie a bow on the bunny's neck and then add on a second bunny. This is going to allow it to perfectly hang on the twine without it flipping upside down. If you put it too close to the tummy of the bunny, it's going to cause it to want to flip upside down, and you're going to always have bunnies kind of hanging weird on the twine. I figured out after trial and error, doing it right where you would tie a bow on a bunny at an angle, they hang perfectly. So you're just basically going to go all the way down the line, however you want the length of it to be. Keep adding on bunnies. When you get to the end, you can hang this up somewhere on a door, on a wreath, on a bookshelf, in your kitchen. There are so many cute places to hang this up, and it is such a tiny attention to detail for the spring that will look beautiful in your home. I found this darling sign at the Dollar Tree. They have some good signs this year. I'm going to take the sign and I'm going to take some twine and some of these carrots. The sign is super cute, but I really wanted to make it more whimsical and special. So I'm going to create different tiered layers of these twine strings coming down. I've got the longest in the middle. Then moving out to the second spot on the right and the left, I've got the next length. It's a little bit shorter. And then on the end, I have the shortest one. And that's because I'm going to make sure I balance the carrots and where they're lining up on the string. So the middle string is going to have 3 carrots. I have really tough fingers with heated things. Like I can work in my kitchen even without using a lot of pot holders when I'm picking up pots. Please use finger guards if that's too hot for you. But you can see here that I'm just going to put some glue on the back of a carrot. I find the side that's least appealing, and that's the side I glue to the string. The better side I want it to be towards the front. I let it cool for about a second, and then I just swipe off the extra glue, making sure that it's locking in to the twine and the carrot, and it's all nice one piece, so it's not going to just come off really easily over time. Once I've got that first one done, I'm going to lay it down and move on to the second row, which is on the right and the left of that middle row. And this one is going to have 2 carrots. Then I move on to the last, and it's going to have only 1 carrot. And you'll see here when I start to glue it to the back of the sign, the carrots are going to fall in between the void of each other. So that first row with the 3, the 2 in the next row over,
will fall in the void where there's no carrots, and the same for the very end. I'm making sure that the carrots aren't going to collide when they're dangling down, but they're going to just be all of these carrots perfectly lined up. This part's pretty easy. I just take my time. And I'm going to glue them to the back, making sure they're glued on there nice and sturdy. We don't want anything coming off. You can see here that I'm just making sure, oh, I got to pull it down a little bit because I want it to fall into that void. And then I'm going to glue it. Once I've got all of those glued on, we want to make sure we clean up the back. Again, I like to have a nice backside. Friends, I say this all the time here because it really does make a difference when you have a nice cleaned back side of your projects that you're making. Again, if it's not your thing, no big deal, but Heidi likes to do this to all her projects. So I'm going to glue that last one, and then I'm going to come in with a piece of scrapbook paper. I didn't show it, by the way, but I'm going to cut off these extra pieces of twine that are too long, trim those down, and then I'm going to add on some glue with a piece of scrapbook paper that I'm going to use to lock it all together. It's also going to help the twine from coming off, and it just cleans up that backside look. You could put a piece of fabric. You could also end up just doing a whole big piece of scrapbook paper, whatever you want to finish the backside. To complete the look, we are going to add a bow because we need a bow on this. And then I like to layer these kind of signs on a wreath. Here's how it looks, layered with a wreath and these darling carrots dangling down. Wouldn't this be so adorable on a front door? I love a good easy project, and when I saw this textured floral egg, I knew it would pair perfectly with this candle pedestal. We're going to remove this sticker. By the way, it was from the Dollar Plus section. We're going to remove this sticker, and we are going to glue and mount it on top of this pedestal. Super easy to do. But then we're going to dress it up a little bit more. Go ahead and use your E6000 and your hot glue and use a nice amount of it and glue them together. I like to do both. I've said this so many times. The hot glue holds the egg in place while the E6000 bonds the glass together. This is going to keep it from it falling apart. Then in their craft section, they have these pearls that are super beautiful to work with. For this particular project, we're going to start by cutting the adhesive strip on opposite side of that pearl. It's a long adhesive strip that's on it, and you're just going to snip to the right of the pearl, to the left of the pearl, and then we're going to put those individually on the center of the flowers. Doing this really dresses up this egg and makes it look more high-end. Now, if you want these to really be locked on there, you definitely could use a Q-tip and some E6000 and to put it on that way so it really locks the glass and the pearl together. But doing the adhesive sticker works really well too. Just know that when you pack it away, make sure you wrap it so that it doesn't bump the adhesive on the pearls when you wrap it and pack it away for the season. Now you can see that I'm just going around to every single flower center. And when I'm done doing that, I'm going to come around to the bottom of the pedestal. I really wanted to dress that up as well. So I'm going to take some of those string of pearls and I'm going to just simply wrap it around the bottom of the pedestal. And then I also wrap it around the top part of the pedestal. In the end, we have a high class looking project on a crafter's budget.
I am so excited to share this project. It's super easy and has such a beautiful look when we're done. And these topiary bunnies are so trendy this year. We're going to make it on a Dollar Tree budget, and you are going to save tons of money not purchasing them from Pottery Barn. Take some foam, cut it down, put it into a terracotta pot. Now I'm going to use E6000. Foam and terracotta just don't want to go well together, especially if you're using only hot glue. So I'm going to add that E6000. It's porous, so it's going to lock into that terracotta, and then I'm going to put that hot glue in there to help it hold it in place while everything's drying. I'm now going to cut off this raffia bow from this bunny. I mean, it's not bad, but let's elevate it some more with a fabric ribbon. And that's the thing about the difference between buying something that is a little bit lower end versus higher end, has nicer bows. Friends, this scraper tool, I show it all the time here on my channel. I just got some glue on my table and I didn't want to leave it there, and it comes up so easily. It's a plastic blade. I highly recommend getting one for your craft room. It gets all the glue off my table. It takes off every tag and sticker from the back of a labeling packaged product. I love this scraper. I'm now taking my craft stick and I pre-punched a hole through the foam and up through my bunny, and now we're going to glue them together. Make sure you get lots of glue in there so that the bunny is nice and secure. We don't want over time for it to wiggle and come out. I don't end up showing it, but I do go back in and reinforce the bottom of that stick into the foam a little bit more. Now up into the bunny, I'm going to add that glue right into that pre-punched hole, but I let it sit for just a second or two, because if you don't, when you go to put it on the stick, the glue is just going to come running down the stick. So you can see here, I'm just kind of like taking a second, letting it dry just a little bit. It was really cold in my craft room on this day, so it was drying pretty quickly. And then when I put it on there, I'm just watching it, making sure the glue's not dripping down. If it does, I turn my bunny upside down to keep the glue at the base of the bunny. Now I'm going to come in with some hot glue and wrap the ribbon around the rim of the terracotta pot. You could use E6000, but because the bow is going to be locking this all together at the end and the ribbon is laying on top of each other nice and tightly, you're not going to really need E6000 with this, even though hot glue and terracotta don't really go so great together. But the bow and the fabric on the ribbon coming together tightly, it's going to hold it in place very nicely. For the bunny, let's go back up to its neck and let's add a ribbon around it, trim off the extra that you don't need, and then just glue that down into place. This is where it starts to get that high-end look without it being a Dollar Tree product. And these bunnies, can you believe this? They have these at the Dollar Tree. They were so expensive for so long. I know Hobby Lobby with certain coupons, well, they don't do coupons anymore, but certain discount weekly sales they have, you can get them cheaper now. But I remember when these things first came out and they were so expensive, and now you can get this bunny for $1.25 at the Dollar Tree. And it gets that topiary bunny look without spending a ton of money. So the bunny's bow is on. It's looking so cute and polished. We are now going to come down to the bottom foam, put some glue on that foam, and I'm going to just tuck that Spanish moss down in there to conceal the foam. We don't want to see that part. And then to finish the look, this is a new greenery pick I found at the Dollar Tree this year. I love it. I am going to give it a little bit of a haircut because the greenery stems are kind of long and I don't want it to collide with the bottom of the bunny. I'm just going to pop that right down in there, and now we have a completed beautiful high-end topiary bunny look for spring. For this project, we're going to be using this larger round framed mirror. That's new at the Dollar Tree. I found it about a week ago. Some clay, air dry clay,
a little nest. I'm going to link the ones that I get from Amazon, and some greenery. I'm going to just take out my clay. I'm showing how I pack it back up so I don't let any air get in there because it's air dry clay. Over time it will dry out, but if you pack it nicely, you won't have that problem. It'll last for a long time. I'll also link my clay below because I love this clay. It's a great clay to work with. I am now going to make the shape of a bird. I first started by squeezing it in my palm to get kind of an oval shape. And then I'm going to curve down the back, make a rounded tummy, and I'm going to bring out the clay at the back end for its tail and start to shape its head and its beak. For the wing, I just decided to get a paintbrush. I pushed down into the clay the shape of a wing. Just kind of think of like a paisley shape or a yin and yang type of shape. And then for his beak, I'm just going to define it a little bit more. And I'm going to just keep playing with that until I like it. And now I don't want this to be super heavy on my mirrored frame. So I'm going to cut off a little bit from the back side, make sure it still looks good, and then put it off to the side. Now that extra clay that we cut off, I'm going to turn that into some little eggs that I'm going to use in my nest. So it's a mama bird and her babies. I'm just going to make 3 little eggs by rolling them together. The bottom is more rounded. The top is a more tear point. Think of like a teardrop. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm now going to test it out in my nest to make sure everything fits in there nicely. And then I'm going to let those just dry for a second while we work on the frame. I have this tool, this hammer that I got from Hobby Lobby a while ago. It is the coolest tool. It has a flathead. It has a Phillips screwdriver. Like it is the best. It has these little tools inside of it. You unscrew and then you can use it and have the hammer too. Plus it's super cute with the buffalo check. I took apart my mirror. I'm going to paint it a beautiful cream. I love using cream in the springtime. You're going to see that a lot on my channel throughout the spring. I'm now going to rough it up. Oh, I gave it 3 coats of paint. Don't let me forget to say that. I really wanted to make sure I covered it nicely. I'm now just roughing it up a little bit on the edges so the black comes through and we get that beautiful country look. And now I'm going to put my frame back together. Filming projects with mirrors, by the way, friends. I know that me, like myself and other YouTube friends, we always try so hard to make projects with mirrors without getting our face in it because let's get real, we're making crafters' faces where we're really focusing. So there's a couple times where you might see a little bit of my face where I just look so intense. I try to always cut those parts out because I just feel like a goofy person. But whenever I'm working with my paintbrushes, I like to wrap them up in a baby wipe in between painting sessions so that I don't ruin my bristles. I keep them moist so that they're not drying out and causing the bristles to get ruined. Now I'm going to put in my bird and my 3 eggs that I did a little bit of distressing with brown onto the nest. And I also add in a little bit of Spanish moss to kind of help conceal the glue a little bit in there. It's kind of tricky to get everything in there. You'll see in a second, you'll see the eggs and some Spanish moss in there. But now I'm going to add on a bunch of greenery. I saw this idea for the frame over on Antique Farmhouse. Oh my word, they were charging so much for this little frame. And when I saw this round mirror, I thought, wait a second, I could make that one frame that was on Antique Farmhouse. So we're just going to create this beautiful treetop look with a nest and these eggs with the mama bird. We're going to bring in some greenery and some florals that we would see around springtime. And that's it. Completes our look. You hang it up somewhere beautiful in your home. It's such a beautiful thing to have for springtime. And it reflects the light in a room, which is always my favorite.
If you've been shopping at the Dollar Tree for a while, I bet you probably already have all of these things on hand. The only thing that's new that they have are these darling picket fence wood cutouts that you can get in the craft section. But everything else they have had in past years. So like I said, I bet you probably have all of these supplies. We've got this bunny sign, the metal bucket, some foam, some Spanish moss, and some florals. Let's start by taking that foam block. We're going to cut it in half, and then we're going to glue it down into our metal bucket. I'm using E6000 because it just works really well with metal. The hot glue over time will pop off. I do use a little bit of hot glue though to hold that E6000 in place while it dries. Now you could just cut the back of these twine hangers off. I decided to pull them off, but I highly recommend just cutting them. They're on there pretty good. Now we're going to take some popsicle sticks. We're going to need 6 of them. I forgot to mention that at the beginning of the video for this supply list. We're going to glue them onto the frame of the fence at the bottom, and we're going to put it over to the side. And I put some glue down, put the popsicle stick, and then added more glue so it really locked on there nicely. We're going to add some glue to our foam squares, bring in that Spanish moss to cover it up, and now we're going to add in our cute little fence. I angled mine inward so that I can make sure the bunny is going to fit on there nicely. I took apart the bunny sign and only kept the bunny, and I'm going to let the craft sticks that I glued onto it dry for a bit. Now I'm cutting apart all of the florals. I like to cut them down because it allows me to bring them together to look more natural versus just one big giant pick. I put in the boxwood first, all the greenery, and then I'm going to add in my bunny. After that, I add in all of the beautiful florals however I see fit. Have fun with this part, creating your own little garden box. This was so fun, and it has me so excited for spring to come so that I can garden again. My supplies for this project are twine, moss sheets I get from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to be using white fabric with a cream burlap. I'm going to use the word spring that I cut out on my Word document program on my computer. And then we're going to make the coolest farmhouse spring banner. Start by cutting apart your letters. I noticed that each sheet, the moss sheets, you can do about 3 letters on each one, depending on what font you're using. Now here is a tip with cutting these. I thought about pinning them down with my straight pin needles, but that wasn't going to work because it's so stiff. It would just bend the needles. So what I'm doing is I'm holding it very firmly to the moss. When you have letters that have an opening in the middle, like a P or an R or a G, the best thing to do is to cut straight up into that hole, cut around, and then come back out and cut out the rest of the outer part of the letter. This is going to save you from cracking the moss sheets and the moss coming off of them very easily. You can see over to the right that I struggled with the letter R, and that happened some, so I saved all of the stuff that came off of it. I'm going to just glue it back together once I put it on the banner piece. So cutting up and through the letter, when you glue it down, you can see the P, the bottom of that P is opened up there. Once I end up gluing it down onto the fabric, you don't even notice that it was cut open. Once all of your letters are cut out, don't they look so cool? These Spanish moss sheets I have had for quite some time, and I haven't done anything with them, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to cut those into letters. You could do this with so many cool phrases on signs, on banners, whatever you want. This would be such a cool thing to cut these into letters and make something really neat like we're about to do right now. I cut all my letters out. I cut some triangles out of the cream burlap, and now I'm going to glue them down onto the white cotton fabric. This is because the cream burlap is very loose knit,
And we want to get that look without having it be too flimsy. It can also fray very easily. So putting it on that white cotton is really going to stabilize it more and make it more substantial. Cut those out, and now we're going to glue on our letters. I am already loving how this looks. I actually saw this banner idea years ago on Antique Farmhouse, and the banner sold out so fast I didn't even have a chance to buy it if I wanted to. So when I saw these moss sheets, I thought, wait a second, I can totally make that banner. Now you're going to notice that I have some of the banner pieces with twine already on them. That's because I started gluing it together wrong. Make sure you put it down the correct way. Line them all up where it spells out your word. Otherwise, you might accidentally glue them together wrong like I did. And, you know, I just made the mistake for you first so that you all don't have to. So I'm going to glue them to the back, making sure they do not get out of order. And I checked them as I was going to make sure that each letter was in the right order. So make sure you've got it flipped the correct way before you glue them down so your word is spelled correctly. And then I'm going to put a long line of glue, put my twine on it, rub that down with a popsicle stick so it's on there really well. And then I'm going to thread on 3 wooden beads. Adding that wooden bead helps hide the twine in between, and it lengthens your banner a little bit more. Plus the beads are so beautiful with the cream burlap and the green letters. I love this project so much, and it's so easy to make. When you get to the end of your twine, the very last bead, we're going to add a tiny little bit of hot glue right on the twine and inside that bead, and then we're going to bring it down next to the other bead and twist it into place. That's going to lock everything in so that you don't have to worry about tying knots or anything weird like that. Now you could stop there, but I'm going to take mine a little bit further. I'm going to distress it ever so slightly. I'm coming in with some brown first, and then when it comes to the white, I wanted the paint to be chunkier, like it was maybe in a garden shed and I was painting and it got some paint on it. So I'm using a popsicle stick. I'm tapping it in the paint, and then I'm tapping it onto the banner so that it's making it chunkier, like you accidentally bumped something when you were painting a room. I don't know if you know what I mean, but this is a very popular look in farmhouse style. Once you've got that paint onto your desire, ready to hang up and decorate for spring, isn't it so adorable? I love this. I have it in my living room underneath my big, beautiful floral painting that I picked up from Home Goods. I'm sure some of you are going to ask. This is from Home Goods, and I believe the artist is Karen White. I want to share this quick tip about E6000. I love using this turnkey on my bottle of E6000. It gets out every drop. It squeezes it all out. This is how I mount it on. Whenever I'm done with the old tube, I just untwist it, pull it off, flatten the new bottle on the end, put the key on, and then twist it and then pinch it down. That's going to make sure that it gets a nice tight turn every time. Now, if you've never used E6000 before, at the very top there is a little pointy tip, and that goes right into the metal. Don't squeeze the bottle too much or the glue will come spilling out like crazy. Then just make sure you tighten it. I had a subscriber tell me that if you put a little Vaseline around the tip, it will keep it from the glue getting all over it, and it'll allow you to open and close it easily. If you haven't already, please give this video a thumbs up. It's a great way to give back to my channel if you're enjoying watching the videos. This project is so high-end on a Dollar Tree budget. I am so giddy to share it with all of you. I found this gorgeous carrot patch sign at the Dollar Tree. We're going to be using some Spanish moss, 2 crates, 2 packs of carrots, a large craft stick, and then I don't show it yet, but you'll see it eventually, 2 round half wooden beads. Take the craft stick and cut that in half. And then let's move on to our crates. We're going to glue those 2 pieces together, take our craft stick, glue that down into the box as well as the second one. This is what we're going to be mounting our sign onto so it can stand upright and create a darling farmer's market sign with our carrots. You can see here that that is now glued on, and I'm going to just make sure I've got everything all nice and straight before I glue it down. Add your glue to the craft sticks and then mount your sign on it. This is going to make sure you have a nice clean look on the back side of your sign. Hold it in place for a little bit, making sure that it's all locked in and nice and strong. And then we're going to move on to the crates. I'm going to take one of these foam blocks from the Dollar Tree. I keep a steak knife in my craft room. I find it is the best thing to work with when you're cutting these foam blocks. I cut the block in half, and then that half piece I cut it in half again. So now I have two of these 1/4 pieces. I'm going to glue those down into my crates, one in each crate, using lots of glue. I find that foam with wood glue really well together. Foam with terracotta or glass, I always recommend E6000. So hot glue will work really well for this part. Now we're going to bring in that Spanish moss to conceal the foam because we don't want to see that part. That's not as whimsical and fun. We're going to cover that up with some Spanish moss. Be careful not to burn your fingers. I like to go around the edge of my foam so that way I leave the room in the middle, not struggling getting my carrots down into the foam. I'll show you that in just a second, but you can see I went around the edge of the foam block, not throughout the middle of the foam block, and that's going to hold the moss in there nicely. Tuck it down in the sides so that you don't see the foam through the side holes of the crates. Now I'm going to take my painter's brush and I'm going to just stick that down in there to create a hole for my carrots. You don't have to use a painter's brush. You can use anything that's big enough to get that down in there to get the size that you need for the carrots. This is going to keep you from having to cut the carrots down. This is an easy way to do it. I'm just going to punch those holes down in there, and this is why I didn't put the glue on the middle part of the foam when I was putting in the Spanish moss. It's going to let it get in there nice and easy. So I'm just creating those holes. I'm adding that glue onto the carrots. Isn't this the easiest project? And it has such a high-end look. This is definitely something that you would see at a very high-end boutique store, and they would charge so much for this. And I think the total cost to make it, let me just think here. We've got the foam, we've got the Spanish moss, we've got the 2 crates, 2 bags of carrots, and the sign. So everything all together to make this is maybe at the most $8. And honestly, you know, the Spanish moss, you're only using a small amount of it. There's leftover foam. Friends, we could probably get away with making this for, I would say, like $6.50. This is just the cutest, easiest project, and it has such a high-end look. Now that I've got all my carrots in there, and you can see I didn't go into the foam for every single carrot, where I have that spacing, that extra space in there between the foam and the crate, I stuck some carrots in between that area too. I filled in all of those carrots from my 2 carrot packs that I purchased, and then up at the top to clean up those holes, I never like leaving those unfinished. I'm going to just add these half wood beads up at the top to conceal those holes, and it gives it a farmhouse look. It looks really nice. And then we are going to add in a ribbon next around the crates. This is going to clean up the line where those 2 boxes are coming together. I really like having a finished look on all my projects. It is the difference between it looks, you know, homemade versus you made it and it has a high-end quality look. I like projects like that here on my channel, and I hope you do too. I'm wrapping around this mesh tan ribbon I get from the Dollar Tree. Cut it down, and I would recommend when you're using this ribbon, it is very thin. You will burn yourself. So I like to use a popsicle stick on this just to bring it all together without getting burnt unnecessarily. Now I'm going to use this ticking stripe ribbon. I'm going to come around the sides, adding in the ribbon. Don't be afraid to readjust it like you see me doing here, making sure it's as straight as you possibly can. That creates an even higher end look when things look straight and tidy. I'm coming around the front of the box, adding down the ribbon, coming around the sides and the back. When I get to the back, I'm just going to cut off the extra ribbon. You could put one more half wood bead on the back to clean up that even more. That could be really beautiful back there. If you don't care about it, you could just glue down the ribbon and call it a day. You could even put a cute little button back there. It's up to whatever you want to do for your project, but glue that down into place. Now at the front of the sign, we could leave that as it is, but I decided I wanted to add a higher end looking bow versus the bow that it had on the sign. I just tied a simple bow with some Dollar Tree ribbon. I'm going to glue it down and manipulate it so that the glued bow is in a place that I want it to be. So when we pack it away on off seasons, it still looks nice and it's put away without it being destroyed. Sometimes bows get messed up when we put our decor away. And then would it be a Heidi project if we didn't finish it with a button in between the bow? I don't know, but this is the finished look. I hope you enjoy it and give it a try. So high end and so easy to make. This project is super simple. We're going to use this bead wreath, these faux eggs, some fabric, this basket that's in the home section at the Dollar Tree, and some moss. All pretty much Dollar Tree supplies except for the fabric that I always have on hand. I just buy it in bulk and I use it for a ton of different projects. We're going to start with taking that wood bead wreath and we're going to cut it down to the length that we need. And this is going to become the handle on the basket. This is super simple. Just cut it down with some wire cutters. I'm going to link mine down below. I love these wire cutters. They are so fantastic. Add on that wired bead to the basket and tighten it really tightly so that it creates a cute basket. You can stop there because this basket is so cute in itself. Put all kinds of cute little things in it. Or we can take it a step further. I'm going to take that cream burlap. I'm going to put that right down into the basket. I did glue the bottoms in of the corners before I glued it in to the basket. Once I tucked it in there and I liked how it looked, I'm now coming onto the side of that mesh of the basket. I'm adding little droplets of glue so that the fabric is binding to the wire of the basket. It's going to dry clear, so you're not even really going to see it. Since it's white and cream, it won't even be noticeable. But that's going to keep that fabric in there from popping out over time. I'm now going to move over to the white cotton fabric that I have. I'm going to do a snip and then I'm going to do a rip. I love ripping fabric, by the way. This is one of those weird therapeutic things in my craft room that I could do this for tons and tons of projects and never get sick of it. Add some hot glue onto your cream burlap. And then take some moss because we're making a bird's nest in this basket. It's going to be so cute when it's all done. I love little things like this for spring. Just not normal spring decor pieces. Little baskets with nests. I just think that they're just so charming and whimsical. I really like projects like that. I'm sure you all know if you've been here for a while. Now these eggs, I'm just separating out the cream ones, and I also had some cream eggs that I spray painted earlier from the 6-pack of the colorful eggs, the bigger ones. I just spray painted those cream. I'm bringing these two eggs together like it looks like I went out and collected eggs for my chickens. I don't have chickens, but if I did, I would keep them in a cute basket like this. I'm going to glue all my eggs down in there, and then I'm going to come in with that white cotton fabric from earlier. I'm going to tie a bow onto the basket, and this is going to make it go from it just being a little basket with eggs to it being more farmhouse chic, maybe country cottage. I just love this look, especially for the springtime. I'm going to tie that ribbon a little bit off to the side, not in the center of the basket, because I don't want to take from the eggs. The eggs are really the feature of this basket. And then I'm going to take some twine before I tie my bow. I'm going to wrap it around a couple of times, give it more of a farmhouse look. I'm going to tie that in a knot. And then after I've got the twine on there and everything's situated, I'm going to go ahead and tie a bow with that fabric. I wanted it to be a little bit of a chunkier bow, so I made my strip of fabric a little bit thicker than I normally would. I'm going to cut off those tails, and we have the most charming basket to decorate with. Head to your local Dollar Tree and pick up one of these decor signs. I had this one from Christmas, but they have them all year round. I am going to be using some Dollar Tree black and white ribbon, some florals, and I did pick up these jumbo craft sticks from Walmart. That's where I get mine from. We're going to remove any stickers from the back just to make it look clean and polished. And now we're going to move on to our jumbo sticks. I'm going to start by just measuring the width of the box so I can cut down my craft sticks, and I'm going to be using some scissors that I have dedicated to these craft sticks, popsicle sticks, whatever you want to call them. I'm going to cut that down where my pencil mark is, and then I'm going to cut more of them for the length of the box. Once I have everything all cut, I can then start to glue on the pieces because we're going to make the front of this sign look like a shiplap sign, which is going to look so beautiful, so farmhouse and cute for spring. Go ahead and start gluing all of those pieces on. I like to do a wiggle line because I find that it really holds and locks on those pieces better versus just a straight line. And then for the top part, my box size is allowing the last stick to hang over ever so slightly. So I'm going to just use my pencil, create a cut line, take my time because these sticks can splinter a little bit. And I want to make that line as clean as possible. Once I have that cut off, I'm going to glue that last stick on into place, and then we're going to paint it whatever color you want. You could also stain it if that is your style and preference too. I'm going to go with white because I love white for the springtime. I'm going to cover the side as well, and you could even paint the back to really have a nice clean polished finished look. I'm going to just go around with 2 coats of paint because I like mine to be nice and crisp for this project. And then I'm going to get my heat gun out because it just speeds up the process of that. I love using a heat gun in my craft room, but remember, if you use one, keep it moving and don't let it sit for a long time. Now we're going to move on to our phrase. You could do this with a lot of different things. You can use a Cricut and using vinyl. You can use stickers, and you can hand paint. You could even use a black Sharpie marker if that works for you too. There are so many different ways to put a really pretty, nice phrase on a sign. It's up to you how you would like to do it. I happen to have some of these stickers, and Dollar Tree has some really great stickers. These particular stickers, I got them from Target a while ago, but I love them because they have a clear background so that I can put them on that and not have any issues. I've decided to go with As I Have Loved You, Love One Another. It's a hymn song that we sing at our church, and I love this phrase. So I thought this would be really nice for the spring going into Easter season, and I can keep it up all year long because I am always promoting my family members to love one another. I added my little comma with a Sharpie marker. Once my phrase was all done, up at the top I decided to decorate it to really jazz it up. And you can see how I wish I had painted the back. So I'm going to recommend, if you remove the stickers, just paint the back. It makes it look so much cleaner. I didn't do it this day because I was in a rush to get this project done for you all, but I would definitely recommend painting it. Glue on this darling gingham bow, and I'm going to come in with some greenery and just sneak that right underneath the bow. You can see here that I'm playing around with it a little bit. The Dollar Tree has finally come out with a boxwood pick. This is the pick that I'm using. I just cut the pieces apart because I like to work with individual stems versus it being all clustered together and then you can't control the direction. So I always like to cut mine apart, And I'm just going to sneak that down into the glue underneath the bow. And I'm going to come in with some other greenery. I really find when I do greenery on projects, I like to bring in a couple of different types of greenery. It makes it look more natural, more real, something that you would see in a garden, because you wouldn't just only see one leaf in a garden. I'm going to show how I do my twine bow. I get asked about it a lot to slow down the process, so I'm going to do it today for you all in this video. I spread my 4 fingers open, and then I wrap around twine, starting with a long tail. I always have a long tail, and then I start wrapping around my fingers probably about 8, 9, 10 times. It depends on how thick I want the bow to be. Then I'm going to bring those tails, I'm going to wrap one tail one direction in the middle, and another tail the other direction in the middle, and then I'm going to simply just tie it. Just a knot right in the middle. And then I fluff it all out, and it is the cutest, easiest farmhouse twine bow. Super fast, super quick to make. So you can see here I just tied it. I'm going to put that right in the center of that gingham bow. I just think layered bows, they make my heart happy. They make my eyes feel tickled with happiness. I don't know, whatever we want to say. But I love layering bows. And you can see here, I'm just putting them right one within another. And then those tails, I don't want them hanging in front of the sign. I feel like that's a little messy. So I'm going to just put a tiny dot of glue on the side of the sign. I'm going to glue those over to the side. And then it's a Heidi project. Let's put a button on it. We're going to top it off with this vintage button that a subscriber sent me a while ago, that I've been saving it for a fun project. Today's the day. Cloches can be so outrageously priced, especially when they're dome tiered tray cloches. Today we're going to be using a $3 vase from the Dollar Tree, a glass plate, a candle stem holder, a little wood finial, a wooden spool, and a wooden circle. I don't show that until a little bit later. But basically all of our supplies are very affordable. To start off, we're going to take the finial and the spool. I put hot glue around the finial and wood glue down into the hole, and then I brought them together. The wood glue is going to lock everything in, while the hot glue is just a short-term hold. Hot glue over time will just come apart when you glue wood together. You can see here I'm pushing that wood glue down in there by tapping it on my desk, and then we want to leave it upright, so I'm going to just put it in that candle stem holder. If you do not have this scraper in your craft room, I know I've been saying it a lot lately, but this sticker was so stubborn, and this is the perfect example why I love this tool. Number one, the blade is not sharp. It's a plastic blade, but the beveled edge allows you to get underneath the most stubborn stickers. If I was trying to get this off with my hands, there's just no way. So here I am coming around, going really slow, adding pressure, and now there's this sticky residue left over. Now normally I would use Goo Gone, but this time I decided to just take it to the sink with the scraper. I scraped off all the sticky residue using this tool. I'm going to link it down below. It is a super affordable tool. If you were going to splurge on something this month, this tool is absolutely fantastic if you haven't gotten one. If you have got one, leave a comment down below and share with everybody if you like it, or if I'm just crazy. All right, we're going to move on to the dome. This is going to become a high-end cloche lid, and I'm going to take this wooden circle. All of my little wooden pieces typically come from the Dollar Tree or from Hobby Lobby, like the finials and the spindle. But this wooden circle, I actually did get that from the Dollar Tree. So I'm using E6000 on the wooden circle as well as hot glue. We want this to bond to the lid of this dome, this glass vase basically. And then I'm going to put some more wood glue into the spool, and that's going to all come together. And when it's done, you let it dry with the amount of time needed. I let mine dry overnight, and it is such a tight seal that I can pick it up from the handle with no problem. Now I'm going to use my E6000. I'm going to squirt hot glue down into the hole where the candle would normally go, and then I'm going to put that on the plate. The E6000 takes anywhere between 2 to 5 hours to really truly lock in, but I like that hot glue to keep it in place so it doesn't slide around. I took it outside, I spray painted it white, and now we're gonna bring the whole look together. This is such a quick, high-end looking craft that anybody can do with the right glue on hand. I put the eggs inside from the Dollar Tree, added some Spanish moss to make it look like a nest, and now I'm going to take one of these beaded garlands. Again, you can get this from the floral section at the Dollar Tree. I'm just going to measure out the size of that dome from the vase, and I'm going to coil it around, making this beautiful beaded wreath garland. Once I've got everything all twisted in place, I'm going to just slide that right on top. And then to finish off the look, to give it that cute country vibe, I'm going to take this lacy ribbon from the Dollar Tree and tie a simple bow. Trim off the tails, and that's it. You have a high-end, beautiful look that was so easy to make. We are going to be using this bunny wood sign, a wood palette sign, 2 sheets of paper, some tape. I'm just going to be using this washi tape that I had on hand, and then 2 of these cleaner pads that you can get in the cleaning section. Take your 2 pieces of paper and tape them together, and this is so that we can create a template of our bunny. I'm going to just put that on there and trace all the way around with a pencil, and then cut it all out. Once I have the whole thing cut out, we're going to use this as our pattern or a template to use on the fluffy pads. I'm going to use a Sharpie marker just because it makes it easier for me to be able to trace around it, and then I'm going to cut it out. There is going to be a lot of fluff going everywhere on this project, but I promise you it's so fun, and the cleanup is pretty simple. You just gotta, dust away all the fluffies when we're done. But I'm going to make this darling fluffy bunny using these pads, and it is such a high quality project for just a couple dollars. Now that I've got the half part on his bottom, I'm going to bring on the upper part of his torso and head, and then the last I'm going to do his ears. When I did his ears, because I want to stick to just using those 2 pads, I ended up cutting the ears apart so that way I can use them on the scraps of the other pieces left over from the torso and the behind of the bunny. Gluing them all together is super easy. Just fluff where you have the seams and then give it a haircut. This is going to really clean up and define the lines of your bunny, and it's going to make it so that it doesn't look messy. It can be as fluffy as it wants in the middle, but you want to try to control the fluff around the edges so it looks tidy. Now for that palette, I'm going to remove that twine string from the back and as well the staples, and then I'm going to use this to allow my bunny to stand upright so I can use this on a table centerpiece, on a bookshelf, on your counter in your kitchen, wherever you want to put it. You could even put it on a bathroom sink. This is such a beautiful project and super easy to make because we're just gluing together things. No painting required, just glue and some creativity. Now we want to make our bunny stand up, so I'm going to use these little wooden blocks. I have a whole bunch of these on hand. I think you can get a pack of like 50 of them in a bag, and then I get a pack of Jenga. It's not Jenga, but it's their tumbling blocks at the Dollar Tree. So I'm just going to put that on the back side. Now I'm going to take one of these pieces of grass moss sheets. I'm going to cut it down to conceal that palette because I don't really want to see that part. I'm going to put that glue right onto the wood and glue on that sheet. And then I'm going to start bringing in my florals. But before we can do that, we do need to add a piece of foam. And I added some Spanish moss around it to conceal the foam. Go ahead and glue that all down, and now we can start creating our garden around our darling bunny. Use whatever florals you want. The height is up to you. I wanted to keep mine low to the ground so it looks like the bunny is hanging out in a little flower bed. We actually have a lot of wild bunnies here where I live, and I love it. I love when spring comes because all the babies start hopping around my garden. It is the best thing in spring to see all of the new birth and life come out and just be in my garden. Oh, my heart loves it so much. Do you have bunnies where you live? Leave a comment down below to let me know if you have bunnies where you live. Now to finish this look, I decided to tie a bow around our bunny, and I went with a simple blue and white gingham ribbon. I am super excited to share this project today because I love making tiered trays. They are so expensive at stores, and you can get them for practically nothing making them yourself. We've got a stair rail that I pick up from a refurbished store here near me. We've got a wooden round sign, a wooden round bowl, both of those are from the Dollar Tree, and then the beaded rings. We're going to start with cutting down our stair rail, and once you get it to the height that you want, I wanted mine a little bit tall, we're going to put that to the side, and then we're going to take off the back screw little hanger hooks on the round sign and then all the stickers. I'm going to be using a countersink drill bit. This is so that the screw, when I put it in there, it's going to fit nicely and it's going to be flush with the wood, so it doesn't scratch any tables. And then I'm going to pre-drill a hole. Now on this wood tray that you can get in the Dollar Plus section, as well as that sign, because these are $3 each, I'm going to add on this wooden square to beef up the wood on the bottom of that round tray. It's a little bit thinner than I would like to be able to host things on the top of this, because we're turning it into a tiered tray. I'm going to beef it up just a little bit so it can make it a little bit stronger. And then I pre-drilled a hole. Going back over to our stair rail, we're going to pre-drill holes as well on both sides of the stair rail stem. And the reason why we're doing this is because we don't want anything to splinter. Pre-drilling a hole allows the screw to go in nicely without it having any issues. I use a smaller drill bit, smaller than the screw, so that way it still catches when I put a screw in, but it doesn't splinter anything. Then on the sides of that bowl, I'm going to drill 2 holes with a larger drill bit. I'm going to tap off all the dust. You can see they're on opposite sides, and now we can start assembling. Drilling the holes maybe takes, I don't know, like 5 minutes. I think the most time is just cutting the stair rail, but if you have a scroll saw, you can do that, or any kind of saw at all, or you can just use a miter box, which is what I did. I'm now going to start that screw, twist on the stair rail, and then finish it up with the drill. Friends, I know that this might look intimidating for new crafters, but this is so easy to make. Like seriously, tops it took me to assemble the whole thing was about 10 minutes, and that's because it took me about 5 minutes to cut the stair rail with my miter box. I like to make sure I get a nice clean cut. Now you can see I'm using wood glue to make sure everything is locking in nicely. I really try to teach here on my channel, glue matters. Use the right glues that are with certain materials so things lock in and bond well together. Now I'm putting on the top of my tray, and I'm just going to take my time. I don't like to force anything in because it can, again, cause things to splinter or crack or just go on crooked. So I'm just taking my time locking that in. Once it's in a spot that I think it looks good and everything's straight, I now can move on to the top part of the tray. This part, when I saw these wooden bead rings, wreath rings, whatever you want to call these. When I saw these, I knew that this would make the most beautiful handle for a tiered tray. These kind of tiered trays sell at Hobby Lobby and Amazon and Target. These things sell for $50 to $100 depending on how big they are. The size that we're making it, I would say you probably get this thing for about 70 bucks. I've seen these priced for that. And basically we're making it for, probably like $10. Probably a little bit less than that. But if you bought everything from scratch, my stair rails that I get, like I said, I go to a local Habitat for Humanity type store and I pick them up for like $1 each, sometimes 50 cents, depending if they have sales. Now I'm going to cut apart that wire. I trimmed it down some and I'm going to twist that wire as tightly as I can get it. So that way this handle is going to stand up nice and strong without it flopping over to the side. The tighter you twist the wire, the better it's going to stand up. I twisted both sides and now we're going to move on to painting. I gave it all 2 coats of white paint. I wanted to make sure it still has that chic farmhouse look, so I'm going to come back in with a little bit of distressing. I've got a coal gray and brown that I just mixed together. I'm dry brushing in some spots and then I'm going to sand it just ever so slightly in some areas that I think it would make it look farmhouse. Once I've got that done, and by the way, you can paint these whatever color you want. But once I got that done, because I have this long neck on this tiered tray, I thought how cool it would be to tie a bow on this because I love bows. And I could switch this bow out to whatever season I want. So because it's this white neutral color, I can switch the bow and make it year-round usable for parties, for little trinkets that I keep by my front door, whatever it is, maybe for jewelry. This can be used for so many things. This project has a high-end Pottery Barn feel and look to it. We're going to be using this large egg that I got from Walmart, but you can honestly find these at the Dollar Tree too. It's just one that I had on hand I wanted to use. Some Spanish moss from the Dollar Tree, this glass candle pedestal from the Dollar Tree, and then I did get this finial topper from Hobby Lobby, but I get them on sale, so just keep an eye out for them. I wish the Dollar Tree would sell finial toppers. A good substitute for it is getting a chest game set and use some of those game pieces for a topper. We are going to glue the finial topper into the top of the egg, remove the ribbon from the bottom of the egg, and now we're going to start bringing it all together. You can see that I came around the candle pedestal with some glue and some Spanish moss. Once that was glued on, now we're going to mount on our egg. I'm using lots of glue on this project, making sure everything seals together. I also would recommend adding in some E6000. That will always glue the foam pieces to a glass piece really well without it coming off. Now we're going to dress up the bottom of our egg stand just a little bit more. I have this beautiful ticking stripe ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I get it in the floral craft section. I'm just going to cut it to size and glue it down. Then to finish dressing it up, I'm going to create a simple bow. Make sure the ends are cut at an angle, or you can do a dovetail, but I like an angle cut on my ticking stripe ribbon. I'm going to glue that into place, and you have the most high-end looking decor piece for a bookshelf, mantle, or for a fireplace. For this project, we're going to be using some cream burlap, some twine, some painter sticks, and some lavender or salvia, whichever you want to call it, purple flowers. Now that we've got all of our supplies, we're going to bring it all together for our darling farmhouse spring project. Start by lining up 6 painter sticks next to each other so you can get the width of our sign that we're going to be making. And then with a pencil, mark the other painter stick that you want and cut it down. Now I'm using these cropped scissors. I forgot what these things are called. I'm going to link them down below, but I want you all to know they are not easy to use, and I had to go back and forth with a piece of wood a few times to get it to cut. Now I will say you can cut it better with that versus a pair of scissors. So, you know, I guess you have to kind of weigh your options, but that particular tool, it is a very hard tool to use when you're cutting through these painter sticks. It's great though for popsicle sticks. Now you can see that I used some wood glue and hot glue to bring it together. I painted it white. I did a little bit of distressing, and now we're going to come in with a piece of burlap. I doubled up 2 pieces and I'm gluing them together, and I'm just going to fray the ends ever so slightly. And before I put on the pocket, it's so much easier just to add your florals first. So I'm going to cut my florals all down from the pick that it's originally on, and then I'm going to glue them all on. I love to have a beautiful bouquet of spring flowers, so I'm bringing in all these different colors and tints and textures. Then I'm going to add a little bit of Spanish moss that's peeking up out of the pocket, and then I'm going to add on that pocket that we made with the white or cream, whatever you want to call it, burlap. Go ahead and glue that down into place, and now we're going to move on to the next part, which is adding on some ribbon so we can hang it up. You can skip this part if you don't want to hang it up, but this would be really beautiful hanging up on a hook somewhere, or even like a dresser if you like to layer and stack up your decor pieces. Now I'm coming in with some push pins. I like that they make it look like grommets, so I just hammer those in. And then to finish our pocket with the front, I did a twine bow by wrapping around my fingers a few times, tied a knot in the middle, and then it just snipped off the extra ends. This project is so easy. We're going to take 2 styrofoam balls. This sign that I found in the home decor section, we're using it because I want the base. This darling Easter sign, and then some florals. All of these supplies are from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to start by cutting down this edge of the sign because we're going to mount this bunny trail farm onto this for a base to help it stand upright. I want to show that you don't always have to just only hang up these signs when you find them at the Dollar Tree. You can turn them into table topping decor pieces. So I'm just going to cut down these pieces, and I could have made that base, but why when it's only $1.25 and it's so easy doing it this way. So I'm going to just glue these 2 pieces together. So now instead of only being able to hang up the sign, I now can put it anywhere on a table. I'm going to use these large clamps that I get from the craft section. I'm just going to clip those into place so that way everything is going to lock in together nice and tight. And now we're going to move on to the foam. I'm simply taking this ball and I'm going to just chop it all up and put it at the base. I'm using that instead of a big foam square because I had these on hand, but whatever foam you have, basically put it at the bottom of the sign, and it's just to dress it up. Now, if you don't want to dress it up and you just want to have that black base, that's really pretty too. It's up to you and what you want to do, how much you want to go with the greenery or not. Either you can copy it exactly how I'm doing it or just make it your own. That's the fun part about crafting. We get to share and then make it our own for our homes. Now I'm going to take these 2 greenery picks that I found at the Dollar Tree. I love these 2 picks. I've been using them a lot, and I will throughout this whole year. I love these 2 picks. I cut them down, poked them into the foam to create this beautiful garden, and then I'm going to come in with 3 white roses, technically roses don't start blooming until the end of spring going into the beginning of summer. But unless people are gardeners, they're not going to know that. I really love gardening, so sometimes I like sharing those little things on here. Now we're going to cover up those holes with some half wooden beads and a little bow on the basket. I thought it would be sweet to add a little white bow to finish the look. I love sneaking in bunny projects with the most random things here on my channel. I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and we were talking about how you can make anything into a bunny. We're going to take this old can of beans, it's a large size, some florals, but I don't end up actually using those, some rope, some foam, a half wood bead, and then some craft sticks. Take off the paper from your can, and we're going to cut the sticks down to the size, the height of the can. And you're going to need enough that's going to go all the way around the whole can. When we're done, this is going to be the most whimsical, darling rabbit. You can see here that I'm using my craft sticks scissors, and I'm going to come in with 2 adhesives, E6000 because we're working with metal, and some hot glue. I say it here a ton of times, the hot glue is to give us a short-term hold while the E6000 makes everything set in place. You're going to notice that the sticks don't lay completely flat on the can, so I'm just kind of tucking one behind the other until I come all the way around to the front. You can see here that they're all nicely fitting. Now we're going to take some twine. This part's optional, but I really love the texture that it offered to this decor piece. And then I'm going to just wrap it around a few times and tie a knot. I really liked how it made it look like a barrel. So I have it at the top of the can and at the bottom of the can, and I did a double knot. Once I had that tied down and in place on both the top and bottom, I cut off the extra string really low to the knot, and then I painted everything white. When I got around the bottom where that twine was, I made sure that you could still kind of see some of the twine, because we're going for a very farmhouse look with this project. Then I took some foam, cut it down to size, snuck that down in there with some E6000 and hot glue, and now we're going to move on to the bunny's ears. This was my favorite part of this project. I'm taking 2 pieces of fabric. You can see that I doubled up the fabric so it's nice and thick. I glued the 2 pieces together to make them nice and sturdy, and now I'm coming in with some white nautical rope going around that rabbit's ear. So you see the pink on the inside of the rope, and then you have the white from the rope on the outside. Now we're going to make his little nose whisker. Take a piece of rope, just untwine it, and then we're going to keep one of the pieces. The other pieces we don't need. Put them off to the side or toss them. And then we're going to do a simple knot right in the middle. Just loop around and pull tight. And then cut it to the length that you want your whiskers to be. Once you've got that, I frayed out the sides, and now I'm going to come in with some hairspray, and I'm going to spray the ends of that. This is going to stiffen it up some. It's going to allow it to be nice and stable when I go to glue it onto the bunny. Make sure you let it dry. I used a lot of hairspray, so it would be nice and stiff. Now for the rabbit's ears, I wanted to distress them a little bit so it matches the barrel. I first wet the fabric with my bottle of water, and then I'm going to do a little bit of this brown coming into the fabric. I just wanted to take down some of the intensity of the pink. I'm not going too crazy, just enough to make it look like a vintage pink. Now I'm coming in between the foam and the can with a ton of glue. I'm going to push those ears down in there and then glue them both into place. You can use a popsicle stick to get down in there so you don't burn your hand. And then after the first round of glue dried, I went back in around the sides and added a little bit more glue. The coolest part is because the rope is nice and stable, it's going to give a lot of shape to the bunny's ears, which is so stinking cute. I added on the nose and the whiskers, and then up at the top, I added in some Spanish moss. Now you can add some florals, but I felt like it took away from the bunny's ears, so I decided to just stick with the Spanish moss. But if you make its ears a little bit longer, you could definitely add florals of your liking. To finish off the look, add on that half wood round bead, and you've got the most darling farmhouse bunny for spring. Our supplies are going to be this terracotta pot from the Dollar Tree, this little bird's nest that I get from Amazon, I'll link it down below, some foam, this egg that was originally a teal color but I spray painted it cream, it's from the Dollar Tree and they're set of 6 eggs that are colorful, a craft stick from the Dollar Tree, and then a little finial that I get from Hobby Lobby. I started by wetting my paintbrush with a lot of white paint, and I'm going to just roughly go around the pot splotchy. As my paintbrush starts to dry because the paint is coming off, it is now going to allow me to get that weathered look. You can see that I splotched it around in those in-between spaces. That's where I'm blending in the paint, and I'm going to do that until I get all the way to the end of my paintbrush getting dry, and we're going to have the perfect farmhouse weathered looking pot. Once that's dried, we're going to go ahead and move on to the foam. I'm adding on E6000 first and then hot glue. The E6000 is going to bond better to the pot, but the hot glue will bond it temporarily. I'm going to take this craft stick, poke it through the nest, poke it down into the foam, and then I'm going to lift it up and glue it all together once I know that everything's going to fit on here nicely. Now this is not a normal craft project you would see. Why is there a stick coming out of the bird's nest? I just loved the way it looked, where it had this stick with a finial on top. I thought this was going to be so cute, a little bit different for decor, and it's going to look so beautiful next to a lamp in my sunroom. I just liked the way that it looked. I don't know. I thought it was cute. Maybe it's a little bit different for some people, but I like the way this looks. So you can leave the stick out if you don't like that idea. But I'm taking my egg, I'm going to use the tip of my hot glue to make the hole a little bit bigger. I want to get the glue inside the egg and then also all around the bottom of the egg. That's going to really lock it down into the nest. For the very top of the craft stick, after I've trimmed it down, I added a little dot of hot glue, and then I added glue inside of the finial topper. You can see here I'm letting it sit for a minute before I put it on, because when the hot glue is too hot, it's just going to run straight down that stick. If I let it cool for a second or two, it's going to allow it to bond nicely without everything dripping everywhere. Once that was glued on, I now can move on to dressing up the stick, and I'm going to just tie a darling sweet little white bow. This ribbon is from the Dollar Tree. Once I've gotten it to the length that I liked, I left the tails really long. I love that they were kind of coming down that pole, going into the nest. To finish the look, I added a tiny button that is green right in the middle of that bow. I found this large glass jar at the Dollar Tree. It's $5. Friends, let me tell you, I am so excited that they carry jars this size now. These things can be so expensive at all the other stores. You could get a coupon, or not a coupon, but an ad sale for Hobby Lobby when they do have them go on sale. But these things run $15 to $25, and that's ridiculous. They're selling it for $5 at the Dollar Tree. So I picked one up, and I picked up 3 bundles of rope. Now you're going to see here the sticker is like the worst to get off. This is my recommendation. I've been talking about it a lot this spring. Get a scraper. this scraper tool, I'll link it down below. It is seriously one of my new favorite tools in my craft room. I keep talking about it because I want everybody to have one. If I could send one out to everybody in the universe, I would. But, you know, that's like impossible. But anyway, you can see here that I was having a hard time getting it up. This is real time that I'm filming this. I'm going to use my water spray bottle. I spritz a little bit on the tag, and then I just keep rubbing it. All the gooiness comes off. These scrapers are the best. I think there's like 10 plastic blades that come in the kit. And then like if I've been using the same blade for almost 9 months, 10 months, something long. They're great. If it gets a little dull or it cracks, you just put on a new blade, and they're plastic blades so you don't get hurt when you're using it. Now I'm going to work with the rope. You can see that I cut the rope at an angle. I wanted it to be able to come across because we are going to make 4 X's around the jar. Have you seen a Darling cottage home where it has those window grids? And I forgot what that is called, but there are grids, little X window panes. I cannot remember. Y'all leave a comment down below and tell me what that's called. But I wanted to create that look on the side of this glass jar. We are going to be making a glass bucket vase with this rope. There is something so avant-garde, so to say, when you bring masculine and feminine together. So what I'm doing, I don't trust hot glue with glass, but we're going to get started with hot glue, and then we're going to reinforce with E6000 in a second. I went around creating 4 X's on my jar, and I'm really slowing down this project because I want to show you all when you rush with rope, you can make a lot of messy mistakes. I like to just take my time, and I'll put on some music, maybe even a show, and then I just take my time. I want to make sure I have as little glue going everywhere as possible, and it's really just to get the project started. Once I've got the 4 X's going all the way around the jar, I'm now going to bring in that E6000. I'm going to put a dollop on the rope where they come together, a dollop on the glass in between the X's, or I guess at the bottom of the X where it meets in the middle, and then on the other one. Then I'm going to come back in with some hot glue. And we are going to take the second rope, because the first rope was to make all the X's. We're going to take the second rope, and we're going to go nice and neat around the bottom. We're going to wrap around the jar 4 times. And I'm going to, again, take my time to show you all this. When I get to a joint where the rope is, I add the E6000, I add some glue with a hot glue, and then I just keep going around. Take your time doing this. It'll make the rope look so much cleaner. You just don't want to see hot glue squeezing out between the ropes or getting all over the glass. And it's glass. You could pick off hot glue if you need to. You can use a scraper tool for that. But I just like to just prevent having to do any of that. When you come all the way around, you're going to have to bump up ever so slightly. And you're wanting to have your rope come up and over the X's. This is going to lock everything in, and it's going to make it strong and sturdy where nothing is going to come falling apart. Now at this point, you don't need the E6000 anymore because the rope is already locked on that first row with the E6000. So now I'm just only using hot glue, and that's going to bond all together. Taking my time, going around everything, pushing down around the sides of the X's where it's a little bit more of that rope built up. When I get to the end of going around 3 times, I'm going to cut off the extra where I started. Every project has a backside, every project. So this is the backside of our jar vessel. So I'm going to go ahead and just make sure I end where I started, and then I'm going to clean that up. Now at this point, I decided to add 1 more so that the bottom of the glass jar was sitting on the rope and it was nice and even. So I'm going to come around with some extra from that first bundle of the X's. I had a little bit left over, so I'm going to go ahead and just wrap around that jar one last time, making sure it has a nice clean finish. You could completely wrap the bottom of the jar if you want to. I didn't do that because, I don't know, I just didn't. But it's up to you and your preference of what you want to do in your craft room. Now that I've got that all the way around, I'm going to cut that piece off. I feel like the bottom looks clean and tidy. That is always my goal here in my craft room, to teach tidy, clean projects. And now up at the top, this is where we're going to turn into a bucket, and it's going to look so adorable. Super cute, super whimsical. What is left over from bundles 1 and 2 of the rope, I'm going to cut 3 even pieces that are long, and I'm going to braid them into the handle of the bucket. I'm using E6000 and hot glue to start that project on the side of the bucket. And I'm going to use a large clamp to hold it down into place while everything dries. That way I can start braiding and I don't have to sit there waiting for the glue to dry forever. And I'm going to just do a very tight braid coming all the way down that rope. Once I've gotten all the way down and I've braided it to the length that I want, again, this depends on you. How long do you want to make the rope handle? You can make it really long, you can make it really short, it's up to you. But once I've gotten all the way down to the end, I'm going to cut off the end and make sure those are nice and clean. And then I'm going to use E6000 and hot glue again and clamp that onto the bucket, on the outside of the bucket, not the inside of the bucket. That way, so if you do use water with this, it's not going to cause any issues down the line with water getting on it because it's on the outside. Could you imagine? You could even do this project with white nautical rope. That could be so beautiful too. But I really love the masculine brown of this rope, so that's why I'm using this. Up at the top, we are now going to start working on wrapping our rope as well. You can see that I'm coming with my E6000 on the joints of the X's, and I'm coming at the middle point. Now, this is a very tricky area, and I'm going to again go real slow so I can show you all. I'm bringing in hot glue on the back side of the handle, and I'm going to come in between that E6000, and I'm going to use as cleanly as possible the hot glue, using little bits at a time, controlling it. You don't want to just goop this on. It's going to run straight down the sides of this bucket, and now you're going to have a problem because glue is going to be everywhere. So just use little dots as you go, making sure the glue is hot and it's bonding well. That E6000 is going to bond with the glass and the rope, and it's all going to lock in, and you're going to be able to pick this thing up by the handle by the time we're done with it. I mean, I wouldn't like put anything crazy heavy in it and pick it up with the handle, but I'm going to be using mine for florals because it's for spring decor. I could also end up putting a candle in it. That could be really cute. You could put a whole bunch of different things inside of this. All right, I'm now coming around the whole edge of the one side of the bucket, coming around the back side of the handle, and this is really to lock everything together because our next row of our rope is going to come around the front side of the handle. I'm going to show that in a second, but you can see that I'm just bringing around that hot glue and the rope, and I'm making sure everything is locking in very little as I go so it doesn't run down the sides. When I get all the way around to the other side of the handle, and again, friends, if you need to speed up through this because this is like common sense, you're going to get it and understand it, by all means, speed it up. But if you're a first-time crafter, I'm going slow for a reason. Once I've gotten back to the handle, I'm now going to start coming around the front side of the handle on the front side of the bucket. And now, because I've already used the E6000, I can go back to only using the hot glue. I'm going to wrap around that jar 3 times. And again, I'm going to show you, go slow so you guys can see. Make sure you keep that clip on. Don't take it off unless you have to get underneath it to put on a layer. And you're going to see as you're doing this project where the X's are, it's going to feel a little bit bulky. So you're going to just make sure you push down in little grooves and crevices where ropes can hit glass versus having to come up and over a piece. Smush things in well, pinch them down, make sure everything lays as flat as you possibly can get it. When I get to the side that I started at, I'm going to stop there. So you can see here, I cut it off, I stuck it in place, and now, whew, I know that was a project, but this was a very therapeutic, calming project, and sometimes it's nice to not speed through projects. I'm now going to come in with these little rocks that you can get in the floral section, and I'm going to fill the bucket with tulips, colorful, bright tulips. Again, we've got the masculine with the rope and the softness of the colors and the glass. It's such a beautiful, fun project that I promise you, you will keep this for years, and you can switch out your florals as much as you want and keep it year round. If the brown rope's not your thing, try out the white nautical rope. It could be beautiful with that as well.
I truly do hope that this video inspired you with these 20 new ideas. Give them a try, get into your craft rooms and make something beautiful for your home. Have fun with it. I am so grateful for all of you stopping in and visiting with me today. It always means so much. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Click the subscribe button if you're new and you don't want to miss more videos coming up here on my channel. Leave a comment down below to let me know which one you liked, which one you think you will try. And I'm going to recommend this video that just came out a couple days ago. Brand new video that wasn't included in this video. Go check it out. And until the next episode, bye friends.